Welcome back to Penny for Your Shots. Today I'm talking with Melissa Broughton about what it really looks like to build a life and a business that gives you more freedom, more flexibility, and more say on how you spend your time. We talk about career transitions, fears that get in the way, taking the leap, and why sometimes the next chapter starts by simply asking yourself, what do I actually want? Here is Melissa Broughton. It's so great to meet you. And for my audience's benefit, would you give us your name and a little bit about what you do?
Sure, Melissa Broughton, and I am the owner of Busy Bee Advisors, which is a full service bookkeeping and tax firm. But I'm also the creator and the driving force behind, I should say, the 1 Hour Bookkeeper training system, which is designed to help, stay at home moms, dads, and military spouses, show them the path on how to start their own bookkeeping practices from home.
Wow, that's great. I feel like a lot of the women that I work with are in transition. They've maybe raised a family and they're looking for something, what's next? What's next for me? And a lot of these brilliant women have the skill set, have lots of different skills among them to do different things. And they may discount the experiences that they've had and the things that they've done. But what would you say to someone that's like looking back at their lives and thinking, oh, I don't have the skills for that, or I could never do that?
I think math is one of the easiest skills I'll say that to learn. It's cool. It's not like having to deal with, learning interpersonal skills or gosh, even as difficult as navigating through, office politics. So I
Gosh.
truly feel like you're never too young or too old. I've had students as young as 16 go through my program because they were wanting to kind of beef up their potential on what they could do as far as summer jobs and things like that, or maybe they had a family business that they wanted to help out in, and this gave them a way to learn the skills to really be able to help. And then my oldest student, she's a hoot, is 98 years old, so that's
Oh
quite
my
a
gosh.
span. And I truly think we're never too old to learn a new skill. But what I feel about bookkeeping is that it's really a skill that we all kind of already possess. It's just
Hmm.
somebody showing us how to kind of connect the dots so that it makes sense.
Absolutely. And if you've run a household, you can definitely run books. You know how to, you know what you're doing, but you just need a little bit of assistance
Sure.
in connecting everything.
Yep, exactly, exactly. So it was kind of funny. It was really a natural progression. We had started, I should say me, I had started Busy Bee Advisors back in 2016. So we just hit our 10-year anniversary.
Ah,
And,
congratulations.
thanks. It feels like a really big milestone. And at the
Yeah.
same time, it's been very much a journey of growing and contracting. I feel like, I feel like it's funny how you look back at things and you go, gosh, I've really made it full circle. Like I've come back to where I've started, but I have so much more knowledge and now I get to do it with intention. And so it was that thought process. I was probably at like year 7, and it was that thought process of just different lessons where I had really come full circle and really had developed this business that was I was living my life with total intention, and it was a beautiful thing. And I've gotten to not miss out on any of the stuff with my kids and not have to say no because I wasn't sure if my boss would, let me have the time off.
Hmm.
And now with both of our boys being off in the world, and we have our youngest who just left for college and our oldest is off and making his mark in the world as well. It really, I just reflect back and I think how thankful I am that I didn't have to miss any of those moments, but that I also was able to really command a wonderful income, or my husband and I, because he joined my firm a few years after I opened it, but that we were really able to command this incredible income. And I don't think with the career paths that we were both on that we ever would have found the balance that we were able to find, so that we ever would have found, like So our life for the next 6 months looks like we are flying out every weekend to Portland because that's where my youngest is going to college for football games. Like we're committed to not missing any games. Well,
Hmm.
that means we leave on Fridays and we fly home on Mondays. So I don't know any job that would allow you to have that. Hey, I need every Friday off, and oh, by the way, I need every Monday off too. It's just been it's been a beautiful journey.
That is so exciting because, corporate America, it's really not built for women, especially. It's a 24-hour cycle. It's very rigid. It's go, 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 hustle and grind. And when you work for yourself, you know when it's time to hustle or you know when it's time to buckle down and do the things that you need to do, but you're working for yourself. You have that flexibility to be able to go, spend the time with your family and do the things that are important to you and really be present for them in their lives.
Yeah, I have an online community within school, and I really get to interact a lot with my audience there. And one of the things that was posted, I think it was yesterday, was, it was like a light bulb moment for this person. And I've never talked to him. I've never really interacted with him other than on the community threads and stuff like that. And he said, I don't know why, but I just realized I actually have more job security in working for myself than
Yes.
I do in
Mhm.
working for somebody else.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, of course, I've always known that in the background, but it was kind of one of those perks that I had forgotten about. And it's so true. Not only do you have control over your schedule, you have control over the people you work with, whether they're people that you hire on your own team or your clients. If there's a client where you feel like, oh my gosh, you kind of want to bury your head in the sand every time they call, you can fire that client. And
Yes.
that's definitely not something that you can do in corporate America. You just can't. And I'll say I was a survivor of corporate America. I worked my way up. I did all of the things I was supposed to do. I
Mhm.
started out, getting the education, starting with the entry level jobs, working my way up, maybe doing the Frogger approach, which is really common nowadays, where I would jump from one
Mhm.
company that I had been at for 5 years or so to another company that was a little bit of a promotion. And I did that. And what I realized was that as I moved up the ladder, of course, the paycheck increased, but any balance in my life whatsoever completely went away.
Mm.
At one point it was my husband and I looking at each other. He was a nurse at the time, and he was working nights and I was working days, and we never saw each other.
Mm.
It became this game of like passing things just back and forth. And I lost a friend. She passed away unexpectedly, kind of during that process. And it was really this huge wake up call to me that life is, we hear it all the time, life is short, but life truly
Yep.
is short, and it really is precious. And the time that we have with our spouses, or gosh, with our dogs, I mean, it's limited. Don't you want to make the most of it? And I really feel that bookkeeping um, is a very simple solution for a business that can be started with very little overhead, and your monthly overhead
Mm.
isn't very high. That anyone of just about any skill set or previous experience truly can master.
Mhm. It's an important distinction, or it depends on how you look at it. Either way you look at it, it's life is too short to spend it, or the way, working for corporate America, building someone else's empire, or it's too long to live in that kind of daily grind
Yep,
day after day.
yep.
That's too much. It takes out of you. And the whole security thing, that's such an important light bulb too, because so many people think about corporate America being the safe option where you've got your benefits and you've got the paycheck that you know is coming in, and it's what hours you're supposed to work and blah blah blah. But that company, you're working for someone else. You're building their empire. You're you don't have a say in the direction
Anything.
that the company, anything. They could close their doors tomorrow, which happens to a lot of us. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? But the opposite, being working for yourself, you make those decisions.
And it's really true. And so then the next logical question that I think I would get from people is, but isn't it hard to get started? What does it take to get started?
Hmm.
And what we really focus on is knowing your target number, right? So matching what you have a need for as far as income, or what your goal is for income, and kind of finding a safe middle spot in there, and then creating a plan to get you there. So
Mm-hmm.
and I say that way because our need is sometimes different than our want, right? Like
Yeah,
our
for
need
sure.
may be to bring in, I'm just going to throw out a very generic number, but our need to bring in, so that we can make sure there's food on the table, maybe $3,000 a month. But really,
Mm-hmm.
to live the life that we want, it means $10,000 a month. And there's truly a plan that we can show you on how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of all is structured around the thought process of 25 clients. So we're not talking
Mm-hmm.
about having to go out there and get 100 clients or 200 clients or 500 clients, or it being an endless list where you're selling a physical product, and then once you've made the sale, then you have to go on and find the next sale. It's
Mm-hmm.
really a small list of clients that you get to serve, that you get the opportunity to, I mean, I say you get to serve, but you are in some cases their confidant. You're their most trusted resource. You're so many things, and you become this incredibly valuable asset to them. And when that happens, and that relationship's been established, the relationship stays for a long time. I mean, I have I have quite a few clients on our roster that have been with us since we started. I still have my original, my original 22 out of my first 26 clients, they're still
Oh,
with us.
wow.
That's 10 years. That's huge. And we've watched them as they've gone through the transition of tax professionals or insurance agents or whatever it may be, but they've stayed with us because they understand that when it comes down to it, we're making sure that they understand what's going on with their business. We're making sure that they're prepared for tax time. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I guess the other piece of it is we're also making sure that if anything looks a little bit funny on their financials, that we're catching that as well.
Mm.
And so that's, you tell a client, hey, I noticed that your whatever expenses are a little bit higher this month, and they discover a fraudulent charge, they become incredibly appreciative that
Oh,
you
sure.
discovered that for them, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many pieces to it, but I think the other piece that's often I would say pushed to the side or not really thought about is that you actually are developing an asset. You're creating a company that if you decided in 5, 10, 15 years, maybe this is a second or third career for you, but if you decided down the road that you wanted to sell it, you truly could sell your
Mm.
business. You could sell your book of business. And I've seen bookkeepers that have sold their books of business for as much as a three-time uh duplication of their
Mm.
annual revenue. And that's huge. That's a huge payday to walk away from something that you actually are kind of enjoying doing through the process. You're not having to
Mm-hmm.
I talked to somebody the other day, and she said, yeah, I hate my job. I drink a bottle of Pepto-Bismol every day before I go into
Oh,
work,
oh
thinking, oh
no.
my gosh, your poor digestive system. But why would you put yourself through that? Like, what?
Right. Oh, that's so
Find
sad.
find another way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and
I
you
get a
could,
little bit excited.
I'm sure I can understand why. And, you could probably build this or start this while you're grinding it out in your corporate job, right? I mean, to build it up because you're not going to go from your corporate income right to a immediate salary that you're paying yourself. I
Right.
wouldn't think. It would take some time
No,
to
no,
build.
you would have to have some time to build up, to build up a client base. Obviously, if you just, don't do what I did, I'll say this, don't just decide to quit your job and then go,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yep.
Um, there's definitely a path that you can follow that's depending on your time and what time you have available, that you can follow to get yourself to that place where you have your immediate needs met, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
that, we said $3,000 before, so we'll use that number again. You have that
Mm-hmm.
$3,000 that's consistently coming in. And then maybe it makes sense for you to say, okay, I'm going to take the leap of faith because
Yeah.
I'm going to look at what it actually is costing me to work at that job. I talk to people that do these. We're in California, gas prices are ridiculous, and they have these long commutes. Well, gas prices alone,
Mm.
if you're not having
Right.
to put that out, every day, um, uh, that adds up on a monthly basis. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that there's some expenses that actually are reduced when you're working for yourself, but there's a point and there's a time where it makes sense to take that leap, and then you can focus on your business
Mm-hmm.
more.
Yeah, that makes sense to me that, just to give yourself that light at the end of the tunnel that, okay, I only have to do this a certain amount of time, and then to really have a goal that you can reach for. That
And
seems
I
really,
think the scariest place for anybody who's deciding to embark on something new is
mm-hmm.
when they take that leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get a little impetuous. Again, I told you I was a leap first, figure it out after type of a person. But
Mm-hmm.
even somebody who's planned it out, I have a bookkeeper that's been with us she's been through multiple courses and done coaching with me for the last few years. And it's been because there have been transitions. So her husband passed away. That was not something that she expected, of course, to happen. She needed to
Mm-hmm.
do something that could immediately bring in some supplemental income. That was how she initially came to us. Well, now she's running a bookkeeping business that's bringing in between ten and $12,000 a month.
Mm. Wow.
And it's given her time to heal. It's done a lot of things for
Mm.
her. So
Nice.
so I think the back to what I was going to say, the scariest thing is that moment when you either make the decision, or you take the leap, right?
Yeah.
And we, of course, as accountants, have broken it down to kind of a formula of what you need to do with your schedule to be able to get those terrifying feelings to go away. So, it becomes if you have, one client and X amount of time, this is what you should be doing during that time that you have
Mm.
allotted. Because we are very schedule driven as a society. And when we wake up and we no longer have anything on the schedule, I think
Mm.
that becomes really, it becomes
Frightening.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like scarier than Halloween. And if there's a plan in place, if we know, okay, this is my plan for the day, then it eases that. Or it just goes back to the mindset of I'm just going to trust the process. And there actually becomes a process that you can trust.
Mhm. How has AI changed the way that you do your business or the way that you train people?
Well, I laugh when people ask that because I think there's a lot of fear around AI. AI is going to take over all of our
Mhm.
jobs, this and that and this and that. What we've seen truly is that we have a lot of clients that have found different companies that offer AI to do the bookkeeping, and it
Mm.
really makes a mess of things. And so then they
Oh,
come to
yeah.
us, then
You
they
need a
come to
human.
us and they're like, I want a real
Fix
human to
this.
help me. Um, I think there will always be the need for that human connection. I think that there is so much of a need in the space of the small business owner who is doing $3 million or less in revenue for them to find a bookkeeper that they can have regular communication with and that they want that relationship with. And I don't see that going away. So
Yeah.
what I have seen on the positive side is that AI has helped with us being able to categorize things correctly. It's been able to help us to identify potential fraud on a client's account. It's been able to help us to get those words out that are sometimes hard to get out when you
Mhm.
know, maybe have to reach out to a client and say, hey, I pulled your, I pulled your statements this month and I noticed that your account's in a negative. Sometimes there's communication that we have to do that's a little bit tough. And
Mhm.
having, that AI tool to be able to rely on to say, hey, how do I adjust this email to not make it sound like it's all doom and gloom? I
Mhm.
think AI is pretty amazing for that. So I
Yeah.
think, it helps us with our automations, but I don't see it as a threat to our industry per se.
Yeah, I agree. And I've heard a lot of the naysayers too talk about the fear behind it, but to me, believe it's going to create more jobs. I believe it's going to make us more efficient. We're going to be able to have that human touch because the AI is going to help us with that stuff that's tedious and that is, when you're working with numbers and being in it. You're on the same spreadsheet, you're in the same zone for hours at a time. I would think that AI would be able to help us catch mistakes and be able to, help us be more efficient and be able to be more effective for our clients and be able to be more proactive, faster, and have that human touch. Yeah, I can't imagine that it would be a
It's
negative for
really
you guys.
it's so true. So here's an example of how we
Mm.
used it and how it, like, I'll say, made us the heroes of the day. So
Yeah.
we had a client, still have him as a client, who
Hmm.
is a real estate developer. He's one of our larger clients. He
Hmm.
generally has he flips houses, things like that, right? He generally
Hmm.
has between 10 and 15 projects going on at once. So that's a lot. That's a lot for one, human brain to look at
Yes.
and to figure out if there's anything odd or off, right? So
Hmm.
he was reaching out to us, and he kind of indicated that he thought that, well, that he thought that there was an issue with his finances. Like he said, I just feel like maybe there's some extra charges that I'm not noticing, or it just seems like I should have more money in my account than I do. But, had we not had technology to be able to help us, we would have been, kind of stuck with having to review numbers side by side in
Yep.
manually, I'll say that. And there's
Yeah.
tricks around it. I mean, there's definitely tricks around it. But what one of the bookkeepers on my team did was she did a comparison with AI. She did a comparison of last year's financials with this year's
Mhm.
financials, right? So she compared like time periods, and she simply asked, show me the variances. And so what that did was it took like 5 seconds. I mean, it was crazy.
Mhm.
It drilled into the five different areas where there had been variances. And I was really kind of blown away. There were over $90,000 of fraudulent transactions that
Oh.
we ended up helping him to find and
Mhm.
recover, that had gone through his accounts. And that's, let AI make you the hero of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nothing
Well,
wrong
and
with
she did the work to get those numbers in order.
correct.
So
Correct.
she's been, there day by day by day, and then she knew what to ask, how to ask it, what to look for, and then how to compare it. After the comparison was done, she was able to, pull that information
Yeah.
together very succinctly for the client, which,
Yeah.
that's a human that does that part.
He sent her a huge fruit basket as a thank you. It
Ah,
was, yes, she was very
nice.
appreciative. So, there's ways that it can help us, but I think that we have to understand that everything changes, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
we have to know that things change, and with more information, or with self-checkouts at grocery stores, or whatever it is, there's a change, and we have to be able to adapt and
Yeah.
adjust. And we can focus on the negatives of it, like I'm sure you've heard people do, or we can
Yeah.
look at the positives and kind of
Yep.
say, how can I use this to my advantage?
Yeah.
And I think
Exactly.
if you're in the place of being positive about it and thinking about ways that you can use it to your advantage, that becomes a huge thing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's many people that would have said that, that COVID was a positive thing, right? It was kind of it's
Not in the
kind of a
moment
rough
or the
time that we all
for
lived through.
several years. Yeah.
Right. That was just this weird flux. But one of the
Uh-huh.
most amazing things that came out of COVID, probably the most amazing thing, was that everybody, your clients that are out there, are now totally in touch with how to use technology. So that
Yeah.
business person that normally you would have had to, drive to their office or figure out some way to be able to be of service to them as a bookkeeper, they're now more than happy and appreciative to jump on a Zoom meeting with you once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, they're happy to pay you for your time on that Zoom meeting. So it really allows you more freedom as, as a bookkeeper to be able to work with clients across the country. Um, it's yeah, there's a lot to embrace with technology, and I think it also
Mm-hmm.
allows you to run a bookkeeping business without having to have additional support staff in place if you didn't want to.
Right. Right. That's a big point. I use technology, I use AI in my business to do those tedious things. I mean, I'm still the face of the company. I'm still the one building the community and connecting people, bringing people together, sharing your stories, all of that. But the back end editing part, I use a lot of tools for that. So
Yeah.
it's so important to be able to focus on the things that you're good at, to be able to serve the people that you serve in the way that you can best serve them without spending, 5 hours on the computer. That doesn't help
Right.
people.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So, I think to kind of wrap up the AI question, we will
Hmm.
always have to be the brains behind it. We will always
Yeah.
have to direct it on what to do and then kind of see how it develops from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And roll with the tide. Just flow,
Rolling with the
go with the
tide.
flow. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, the gratitude thing, the being grateful, the being present, the being able to adapt with the changes. I think that's super important too, that you keep that attitude of, this is something new. Okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
And this is going to help me. I'll figure out how to make it help me instead of being scared of it.
right. Right. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, cool. What kind of person makes the best bookkeeper? Is there a certain personality type or a certain person that you gravitate to or that gravitates to you?
I really look for my own team when I'm hiring for my own team, and that was kind of the reason for starting the first phases of the bookkeeping course, was that we found that as we continued to grow, that we were always on the search for new bookkeepers. And excuse me, when you say the term bookkeeper, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot
Mm,
of different people. And I wanted to be able to have a training program for when I found those right people, to be able to have everybody be at the same skill level, the same starting point, so to speak, right? So
mhm,
what do I look for when I'm hiring for my own team? I truly look for somebody who's willing to share and who wants to educate their clients, who
mm,
wants to have those conversations with the clients, who wants to and who's willing to communicate. And what I found that's interesting is that it's not necessarily in the nature of a lot of people who have traditionally been in the world of accounting or finance, right? We're
mhm.
usually, and I'm definitely an anomaly. Like I'm super social, but I can also be the person that's in the back office that's like, leave me alone. But most most bookkeepers and financial professionals are those people that are kind of those back office people. They don't want to
Yeah,
have a lot of face-to-face interaction.
behind the scenes
Right.
introverts, kind
Right.
of. Hmm.
Total introverts. And so I kind of look for somebody who's got more of a balance, somebody who's, just that clean spirit and that warm heart, and that they really care about other people. That would be what I would say the first thing I look for as far as adding to my own team. But I will say that there are all different kinds of clients out there and all different kinds of client personalities out there. And there are bookkeepers that have gone through my training and they understand the fundamentals, and the way that they approach things is not necessarily the way that I would approach things, but
Mm,
it's what
mhm,
works for them and it's what works
mm,
for their clients. And so, I kind of go with I provide the foundational skill set and provide you with the leads of clients that are actively looking for
mm,
bookkeepers, and then provide you with the support so that as you grow your business and those questions that you feel like are just crazy questions, you don't know how to answer them, you now have a support team to come back to and say, hey, a client asked me this, how do I respond? Or I just jumped into a brand new client's books and I don't even know what I'm looking at or how to start. And you
mm,
have that support team to come back to. Um, I essentially created a course that was everything I wish I had had when I first
mm.
started. That took me, kind of 2.5 years to really figure things out and figure out our systems in place. When I started my firm, I was just hungry to have business and have clients. So I did all of the different things I knew to do to be able to get the word out there and to network. And by the time my doors had been open for, I think, 3 weeks, we had 26 clients.
Oh,
And so, right, I had nothing. I had no office space. I
wow.
was working from my dining room table
Mhm.
and figuring everything out as I went. The one thing I will say that I did that I'm so thankful, that really was such a time saver, is anything I thought I would do more than once, I documented the process.
Oh, brilliant.
And
Yes.
so when I came back to all of those notes that I thought, God, why am I documenting all of this stuff? It was just I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I had this full training manual that was put together,
Yes.
we edited a little bit, but
Yep.
it really became it was forward thinking, definitely. So
Oh, for sure. Anything, to systematize it, you have to have a system so that you can duplicate it so that you can scale. And gosh, that just also reminds me of the brilliant women that go through a transition. They figure it out. I mean, you do what you have to do and you put one foot in front of the other and you figure it out. But having a system so that you can duplicate it and help others along the way, you're filling a need and for yourself, and then it's also helping others too.
well, and I think as women, we're kind of always dropped into different places of
Oh, for
transition.
sure.
You know, we
Yep.
we get used to leaving home, then we adjust to, what it's like to share our lives with another human being, and then, maybe down the path we have a child. I mean, there's like and then those kids leave us. There's all these places of transition. But I do have a lot of students that come to us that are either in a place of they're about to have their first or second child. I did
Hmm.
talk to one woman who she's about to have her eighth child, and I'll just say she's my superhero.
Oh.
So, they're about to have a child, or there's some significant change that's happened in their life, or maybe their spouse has just gotten laid off, or they have retired or were forced to retire. That's
Hmm.
something that I'm hearing more and more often. And I'm not hearing it about guys. I'm hearing it about women,
Yeah.
that they're being pushed into a forced retirement. And so you're 50 years old and you're being forced to retire. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but now you're looking at yourself and you're going, God, I don't even know what it would look like to get back out there
Hmm.
into the job market and start to look.
Well,
Those
and
are really go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. I think that that's one of those situations where you really wake up and go, what have I been doing? And what
Mhm.
do I want for my life? What do I want to do?
Yep.
What passion did I have that I wanted to follow, but instead I went this corporate route? And that gives you that opportunity to reevaluate and think, now what's really important to me?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
can I best be of service to others? I mean, my thing? What's my passion?
So if I'm able to, and it doesn't always happen, but if I'm able to connect with somebody at that moment, when maybe they're feeling a little bit panicked, or maybe they're feeling like they don't know what direction to go into. I love having those conversations with people.
Hmm.
And it's not that I'm probably the most terrible salesperson on the planet. So I'm certainly not going to try to sell them into
Yeah.
something, but it can be a conversation where it's the what is it that you want? Like you have
Yeah.
this amazing opportunity. I know it's scary. Like I believe me, I totally know it's scary. Having a husband that, he retired from nursing 2 months before the shutdown. We had no idea that the
Whoa.
shutdown was coming. Nobody in the
Uh-huh.
world did.
Right.
And honestly, it was a selfish thing. I wanted to finally be able to go out for New Year's Eve. And so I said to him, I'm like, you should quit your job. You should go back to school to get your certifications and stuff like that to finish a degree that he had kind of left unfinished. And you should come and work with me. And, I had, of course, all of the numbers worked out, and I really thought it was going to be this tough pitch. And he just said, okay, you know,
Ah,
and it became this perfect moment for us because we
wow.
were young enough to be able to take the leap. And
Hmm.
we really realized that there probably wouldn't be other times in our lives where we would have the same opportunity. So he said
Wow.
yes, and that was pretty amazing. But
That's exciting.
so I understand the scariness of, okay, now we're both in it. There's not a
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
paycheck, right?
Yep.
And what does it look like? And really, what it looks like is it looks like consistency. I
Yeah.
would rather work with someone who has 5 minutes in a day that they are willing to focus on marketing their business and building their business than somebody that has this open calendar that they never
Mm.
take action on anything, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really it's small little bits of daily activity that go towards building what it is that you want for your future.
Yeah. Fear can really hold us back. I mean, I work with a lot of women who are, they have the idea, they know what they need to do, but they don't know where to start. And that, that imposter syndrome, the fear of the unknown and not being perfect, possibly, this thing that I'm doing, whatever this next step is, I don't know how to do it good enough yet. Good enough. You won't know that until you start.
Right, right. Or there's a fear of being laughed at. I mean, the imposter syndrome is a big one.
Mhm.
That's a big one for a lot of us. It's not something that I hear from a lot of men, but it is
Right.
definitely something that I hear from a lot of women. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's really there's an exercise that I love to take people through when there's fear that's causing them to freeze and not take action.
Mhm.
And it was something that I used to do with my boys when they were growing up, when they would feel, anxious or scared about something. It was this, what's the worst that could happen? And
Oh,
so it's really a quick, like, what's the worst that could happen? And somebody
yeah.
says, oh, I don't know. They always say, I don't know to start with. It's like, okay, we have to give me an answer to the first thing that comes to mind. And you do it very rapid fire, but it's amazing when we don't give our brains the time to pause and we just say
Yep.
it, the
Yep.
stuff that comes out. And when we hear the stuff that comes out, we realize how
How
silly
silly.
it is. That's
Yeah.
what's stopping you. I had one bookkeeper that I was coaching through it, and she's like, I will do anything, but I'm not going to get on the phone. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be successful, or it's going to be really hard for you to be successful because you can send emails out all day, every day, but you're
Mhm.
competing with a lot of other emails that somebody may be getting. You can send text messages, but if they don't know you, they're just going to delete it. But if you pick up the phone and you can actually have a conversation with somebody, that's huge. And
Mhm.
she was nodding at me just like you are right now. And I'm thinking she's not going to do it. And I
Yeah.
said, I said, I want you to play a game with me. And so she, of course, I appreciate how willing my students are. So, I said, okay, we're going to play what's the worst that could happen. And she's like, okay. And now this is a very educated woman. This is a
Uh-huh.
woman who is a retired attorney, actually. So she is an incredibly educated woman, and she intimidates me a little bit. But I said, so what's the worst that can happen when you make that phone call? Oh, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
we got through that. And it came to that they wouldn't answer. I thought, well, that's funny. Not what I would have thought. I said, so is it that, what's that feeling about? And then we worked through it. And
Dig
it really
deeper.
wasn't about feeling that it wasn't a feeling of rejection, which it usually is for most people. For her, it was feeling like she had wasted her time. Well, her whole career
Oh,
had been based on your only value
billing
is
hours.
your,
Yeah.
yes. And there was this huge breakthrough. And now all of a sudden we remove that one little thing. It's like the one little piece of a dam. We remove it, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden everything flows.
Yeah.
And it is so, it's just so gratifying to me and so amazing to me when I see people that are living a life on purpose rather than just going along and kind of being a drone or a cog in the machine that they never really
Yeah.
wanted to be.
Exactly. I do something similar too with my people, and and asking them what they want. And what do you really want? And you ask, what do you want? Okay, and what else? And what else? And it's usually by the third to fifth one that they come out with, that's the real answer.
Yep.
Because the first ones are just off the top of their head and they're just trying to get you off the back. They're just trying to make you
Right,
shut
right.
up.
Or I think there's safety mechanisms that happen inside of our brains where our brains don't want to let go of the information.
Yes,
I've
it's
worked
all
with,
about fear. Yeah.
yeah, it's all about fear. And it's
Uh-huh.
it's really interesting. It's fear, or the other block is, I would say, is frustration that I'll run into. And I mean it
Mm-hmm.
in the way that somebody will be going along and they'll be doing all the things that they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will hit one problem or one roadblock, and it totally and completely throws them off course. And then
Mm-hmm.
they get upset, and they convince themselves that they didn't want to do it anyway. I didn't really want this in the first place. This is too hard, whatever it is. And if there's that support in place to kind of redirect you, I think that's huge. I think
Mm-hmm.
whether somebody is a coaching becomes one of my coaching students, or one of your coaching students, or somebody else's
Mm-hmm.
coaching students, I think everybody deserves to have a coach.
Yeah.
And I really, it's the transformations that can happen are so huge. And the beauty of what happens when you work with a coach is you don't even realize the transformations that are happening until you
Mm.
look back on where you were at a month ago or 2 months ago or a year ago,
Yeah.
or something like that. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and think about what your future self would want for you right now.
yep.
Are you making your future self proud?
Yeah, or
Is
are
she
you
proud
just
of you?
kind of going through the motions? And I think, to go back to what we had talked about earlier, there's there's a need to pay the bills. Like, there is no
Mm-hmm.
question about that. But
Right.
there are small things that you can do to move the ball forward so that you truly can create that future that your future self would be
Mm.
excited to live.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice to be able to say, okay, we want to go away for the weekend, or we want to do, go on a trip, or to be able to travel and to be able to explore and to have that kind of freedom. It's a great way to live an intentional life.
Yeah. Keeping that in mind makes it easier to put one foot in front of the other.
It does.
Yeah. Keeping that purpose, that passion, and that goal, that end goal, make your future life easier.
Yeah, and I'll say the hardest day that I have working for myself is still better than the easiest day I had working for someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
Yeah. Can I switch gears on you?
sure, sure.
Okay, so I love to end my conversations or bring my conversations around to something fun like alcohol,
Ooh,
like
okay.
cocktails. Do you have a favorite cocktail or glass of wine?
I'm an old-fashioned girl, so old fashions are my favorite. My
Nice.
husband makes the best ones.
Oh.
It's really funny. We'll go out and I'll order one when we're out, and his are always better. So old fashions.
Wonderful. Okay, so do you have a specific bourbon that you use or specific whiskey? How do you make yours?
I Bullet is probably my
Okay.
go-to.
Yeah.
Basil Hayden is another one that I like, but
Yeah.
it's not always easy to find.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so those two would be my go-tos.
Okay. My husband is very much into bourbon and into making old fashions, and he has a couple different recipes that he goes to, and his black Manhattans are kind of similar, but a little, slightly different. He has all these variations. It's just so fun to experiment with, right?
It is. It is. You can't experiment too much. You'll end up on the floor, but
Yeah. True. Spread it out over some days or maybe.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Even as a little girl, I knew my dad would always have a Manhattan when he got home from work. That was just
Oh.
his cocktail Manhattan with three cherries.
Mm.
And growing up, I always wanted to, I didn't really want to be a cocktail girl and or like a martini girl, and I didn't want to
Uh-huh.
be a beer girl. I wanted to drink scotch like my dad. Well, I had my first Manhattan, and I mean, I thought it was awful. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to find another drink. And
Yeah.
there was a bartender long, long ago that recommended that I try an old fashioned, and
Yeah.
it was a love affair from that point on. So
Yes. Oh, yes. A little smoother, a little bit more,
yes,
yes,
a little
round.
sweeter. Yeah.
Yes, a little, yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful thing. So, do you have a favorite memory shared with friends over a nice old fashioned?
Oh, I mean, anytime that you can sit, we're very both my husband and I are very, I would say, approachable, transparent people. I think the best memories are just sitting around, a fire. I'm not going to say a campfire because I absolutely hate camping, but sitting around a fire pit fire, one that's close to a real bathroom. Um,
Yes.
Sitting around a fire and just talking with friends, those nights that just go for hours and hours that you wish would never end.
Yes.
Yeah, that, you know,
Yeah.
I lost a good friend not too long ago, 2 years ago, actually. And one of the things that, her and I would do, we had our kids 9 months apart. So we were
Mm.
always kind of at the same phases in life together.
Mm-hmm.
And probably once or twice a month, we would, get together. Wine was always her drink of choice, and I would have
Yes.
my old fashioned. And it wasn't like we were finishing off bottles and bottles of wine, but it would
Mm-hmm.
be just the having a cocktail and sitting in the
Yeah.
backyard and talking and
Mm-hmm.
really just talking about all kinds of things and, laughing and stuff like that. And I found that
Yeah.
it was just the best. God, the best stress reliever, the best thing for the soul. So
Yeah.
I would say those are probably my best memories.
I love it. Yeah, girlfriend time is so important.
It is. It is.
Yeah. I think you're my people.
I think so. Well, I'm a Midwestern girl myself, so I'm
Oh, yeah?
originally from Chicago. And
Okay.
then, my mom, when I was just about to be a freshman in high school, my mom got this kind of crazy hair up in her brain and said, "We're going to move from Chicago to Davis, California. Isn't it going to be great?" And so I have lived for longer in California than I did in Chicago.
Yeah.
And we are now empty nesters. So we are really, we're both believers of living life with intention. So we are officially moving to Tennessee. We kind of did my
Oh,
husband and I kind of did the throw a dart at a map and see if it made
yes.
sense and travel there. And we traveled to a couple different places. There were a few that did not make sense or that he
Yeah.
liked and I didn't, or that I
Yeah.
liked and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we settled on Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. So
Oh, wonderful. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that's exciting.
it's
When is
really
this?
exciting.
Yeah, when are you having?
We'll be on the road probably by this time next week because we have
Soon.
one left at home. She is not a human. She is a big,
Oh,
great big puppy. But I will not put her on an airplane to go in,
yeah.
under
No.
in the cargo bin. So we are
Yep.
driving cross country with her so that she can have a safe arrival in Tennessee
Yes,
as well.
that's very good. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting and so quick. So
So quick.
soon.
So quick. Yeah, we knew what we've got football season that starts at the
Yes.
end of this month, and so we want to be in the house so that we can fly out to
And make the flight.
all of his games.
Yeah. So does he play?
He does. So he'll be at Portland State in the
Portland
fall.
State.
Now,
Okay.
I understand the people go, if you think about it, you're like, wait, you're in California, your son's in Portland, and you're moving to Tennessee. But we are. So
It's a flight. It's a flight
it's a
away.
flight.
That's,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And
And
I
it's a
think
temporary thing.
it is a temporary thing. And I think he's really excited to have the autonomy from his family.
Mm.
You know, our oldest, when he left us, when he, left the nest, he went into the Marine Corps. And so
Oh,
that was a very different separation experience. I mean, he went into the Marine
yeah.
Corps right when all the COVID stuff happened. So he was
Oh,
in it, and that was a very interesting time. But so he's in the South, so we're kind of going to be closer to our oldest now. But
hmm,
yeah, it really is. It really is it's an exciting time.
yeah. They will come to visit.
Yes, yes. We're not quite sure what to expect with the weather in Tennessee.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
well, no, I'll say that differently. Like we've looked at the reports. We
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
My husband's lived in California his whole life. He was born in Northern California. He's lived here his whole life. I lived in the Midwest, so I understand humidity. I don't
Hmm.
really know he quite understands
Mm.
humidity, but
Hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Later this month could be his first taste.
It could be. I think it will be, but
Yeah.
I look at it and I go, it's 85 there. I understand the humidity is really high, but it was 109 here the other day.
Oh, gosh.
I'll take 85 with humidity versus you walk outside and you feel like every single drop of water is being, sucked out of your body. So,
Right. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, you can get away from it. You can go inside.
yes, you can. There's air conditioning in
Yeah.
Tennessee as well. So,
There is. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Melissa, this has been so fun.
yes,
It's
it
great
has.
getting to
Thank
know
you.
you.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
I do
Thanks for.
have a gift for your audience.
Oh,
I'll
cool.
send you the link and all of that stuff. But one of the things that it was kind of the question you asked when we first started of what if somebody says they're bad at numbers or whatever it is?
Yeah.
It's a three-step guide to achieving work-life balance, and it's all based upon the principles of really finding out and asking yourself the questions to dig a little bit to figure out what it is that you really want. It presents bookkeeping as a potential answer, but it also provides some other answers of just living a life with intention and really,
Mm.
I think that's what we need more of. I think there's
Oh,
so many people that just go through the motions and they
yes.
wake up every day and they're miserable with their lives. And we're just like one quick adjustment away from having
Mm.
everything we want. And this
Yeah.
is really a kind of a starter guide to that. So I'd love to share that
Oh,
with your
that's
audience.
awesome. Is there a link that they should
Yep.
follow
So
for
I'll
that?
send you, I'll send you a link.
I'll include that in my show notes and everything so that
Perfect.
people can find it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. This is amazing, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with my audience. I'll let you know when things go live and get you the links and
Perfect.
stuff too.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to share this with my audience as well. This has been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Have a great day.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Mm, bye. That's a wrap on this episode of Penny for Your Shots. If you loved today's conversation, don't let the inspiration stop here. Get my weekly insider updates straight to your inbox. It's where I spill behind the scenes goodies, exclusive tips, and all the fun stuff I don't always share on the podcast. Sign up now at pennyforyourshots.com/insider. I'll see you in your inbox next Thirsty Thursday. Cheers!